It's on a daily basis. So when my kids were younger, I'd to the mall. I'm like, all right, I can go where I used to go. And my daughter wanted the flying saucer that they used to always get. I'm like, but I had this and another donut. You had 3/4 of this, and you were pretty much yakking in the car.
Oh, no.
I was like,
They make good donuts there. That's a good donut place.
it's a great.
You're going to be metabolism.
Oh,
You can have a couple of donuts a day. I just look at them and be, 200-300 pounds at that point.
again, I was numb. So yes, it was constant movement.
Yeah, you burn it up quickly when you're
Yes.
young.
Used to pick up crab apples in the yard, penny a crab apple. You do the mental math.
Possibly.
I don't know. Can anyone hear me in the boardroom? Yeah, they might be muted until they officially start the meeting, perhaps.
Okay.
You could try sending a chat, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
Let me see if there's any other options to like dial in or.
They're usually streamed live on YouTube, but I don't think you can verbally participate. It's just a view option.
Oh. I wonder if I should try to switch to my phone audio.
Dealing with something, he's gonna zoom in when he can. You still got your bills there.
Oh, we're hearing the board
Oh,
now,
Jesus.
so maybe they can hear you.
Yeah, I'll get it down to you.
Well, it's not a big guy. We can switch for sometimes. I got a couple guys who just throw it in the back.
Dan, can you hear me?
It's one of those things we talk about. And then we're like, we're gonna
I
get
wonder if
that
their like their speaker volume is low.
That might be.
There's always enough other stuff going on.
I'll
Yeah.
try sending an email to Pam.
Hopefully tomorrow we can get back in the beans.
What are you storing bolts here? Greenhouse?
There's always just
I
like
mean-
friends and family.
Oh, I saw.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah, I am.
nice and like I was a kid, we used to do a lot, but now we're just. Because we don't have insurance. And they can your own rents, so
Most places make you carry insurance. Like I carry insurance on mine year round.
yeah,
Burns up, thank
we do,
God.
but not for. Not for. Boat space. They're good for the structure, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but not.
no, it's up to the individual to carry their own
Yeah,
insurance
yeah,
for that. Everybody's got that.
Yeah.
You got your own insurance.
So, I don't know why you would wanna revive me.
Hello, hello?
Wait, can she hear us? Yes, okay. Okay.
Good evening. Welcome to the special town board meeting for the town of Rush on October 14th, 2025. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Here.
Councilman Chase,
Here.
Councilman Kies,
Here.
Supervisor Wilbur,
Here.
and Councilman Brown.
He's dealing with something and he's gonna come on when he can.
What's that?
Oh, was he?
But we have a forum and.
Okay.
Next gen. So.
We're gonna begin with a presentation from Brown and Brown to talk about health insurance for town employees.
Hi, can you hear me yet?
I can hear you.
Oh, yes. Awesome. Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me on. My name is Molly Angeline. I'm with Brown and Brown Insurance. And of course, we represent the town of Rush and their employee benefits. So today I'm going to go over the 2026 Excellus plan renewals. And then we're going to go over some alternate lower cost options as well as some contribution scenarios for you to, think about offering kind of a different structure with the ever-changing landscape of the exponential cost of healthcare. So I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen if I can. Okay, I know it's not on the right one yet, but we'll get there. Are you able to see the screen? What are you seeing? Are you kind of seeing like two slides back to back or just one big slide deck?
Seeing the 2006 renewal as a big one, and then over to the left is your PowerPoint, I believe.
Okay, how is that? Better?
Change?
The big PowerPoint now?
Nothing changed.
Presenter. Let me just stop sharing for 1 second again. Okay, how's that? Awesome. Okay. So let's just go right through this. So on this page, on page 3, I have your current 2025 plans, the Platinum 2 and the Platinum 6, next to the 2026 Platinum 2 and Platinum 6. So originally, Excellus went to the DFS, and they always request a certain amount of premium increases they need. So it was originally requested approximately 25% on average was needed in the community rated pool. Typically every year, the state does push back, at least a couple points and meets Excellus somewhere in the middle to where they think is feasible. So ultimately, all the community rated plans landed at about a 20% on average. Some were 18% and 19%. Those are more of the high deductible health plans. And then more of the platinum level rich plans ended up around 21 and 22%. So the Platinum 2 is going to 21%, and the Platinum 6 is getting to 21.5%. And this is just an element of everything we're seeing in the news and at the federal level, and commercials for really expensive drugs that are out there that are curing cancers and making life worth living and quality of life. It's all going into the soup of all the very expensive medical services that really locally, regionally, and nationally we were all using. So ultimately, these are the new rates for the plans. Do you have any questions on the plans themselves, or do you want any more kind of background on kind of what's happening in the market for these increases? Nope. Okay. So here I have your estimated 2026 renewal financial snapshot. So what I have is at the top is the Platinum 2 and the Platinum 6 with your current enrollment. I show the true monthly rate of the plan, Town of Rush's cost at that 90% mark for both plans, what that relates to in the monthly employee cost, and then how that annually adds up in the columns on the right. So annually about 283,793, the town of Rush is spending on their healthcare benefits. The employees are picking up about 31,000 of that, and the total premium is 315,326 to Excelis. So then what I did on the bottom is just simply showing the renewal rates with the, on average 21% increase, and how that does shake out to be. So you have about 27% enrolled in that higher cost Platinum 2, 73% enrolled in that Platinum 6. So overall, if you made no changes, the annual total cost change to Rush would be about $60,000 481 at the bottom there, or about 21.3%. The employees are increasing their spend about 6,700, and total premiums going to Excelis are increasing 67,000 year over year. So here is where it gets fun, and we have some alternatives. And I know in the past, some of my coworkers and the co-consultant Brian Hart, that's worked with Rush for many years, has talked about lower cost plans and has presented them to you. But especially with these rates not seeming to really plateau yet, a lot of municipalities, especially private sector, really no one's immune to it, is really looking to go to a different plan design, just to try to stay with their head above water. So on this slide, I have the Platinum 6 compared to 3 lower cost plans. And so I'm going to go over a little bit, not necessarily line by line, but really how these plans work and how they would feel and look different for your employees. So the Platinum 6 is, of course, a true copay plan. You have budgetable, predictable copays when you go to the doctor, your specialist. If you were to be hospitalized, there's a $750 copay. It's a 3-tier drug plan. So it's $5 for generics, $35 for brand, $70 for specialty. There's no deductible or coinsurance on this plan. And then there is an out-of-pocket maximum of $65.50 for an individual and $13,100 for a family. And on copay plans, the out-of-pocket maximums are not as important as they are on high deductible health plans, because you'd be paying copays until you're blue in the face. But because of the Affordable Care Act, every plan kind of has that ceiling, the maximum out-of-pocket that an individual would spend. The Gold 17, the one to the right, this is what we call the hybrid. So just like half gas, half electric, it's going to be half copay, half high deductible plan. For more commonly used services like doctor's visits, prescription drugs, urgent care, emergency room, there are going to still be those predictable copays. They are a little bit higher, so it's $10 higher on your primary care doc, $20 higher on your specialist to $70. The prescription drug is a little bit different as well. And where the deductible part comes in on hybrid plans is if you were to have a more invasive or intense procedure or outpatient surgery, inpatient hospitalization, those services are subject to a deductible. So just like home insurance or car insurance, there's a certain amount that you need to meet before the insurance starts to pay. And that doesn't mean that you don't have any insurance at all, because you still have Excelis's horsepower behind you, and like a doctor or a hospital can't just charge you whatever they want to charge you. It's still a contracted rate. But the deductible on the Gold 17 is $1,100 for a single and $2,200 for a family. So again, commonly used services, you go to the pharmacy, pick up your prescription drugs, those are still all copays. You have an outpatient procedure or a surgery in the hospital, you would have to meet those deductibles. After you meet your deductibles, the plan goes to coinsurance, the next row down, which means that you're responsible, the employee is responsible for 20% of any invoice or bill that comes their way, again, only for those more invasive services that are subject to the deductible. Excelis pays 80%, And then that continues until your out-of-pocket maximum, which is $82.50 for a single or $16,500. And the row right below that where you see $82.50, this is an IRS kind of stopgap. That means one single person in a family plan. You can see the family out-of-pocket maximum is $16,500 there. Not one person can run through that whole thing. One person's capped at $82.50. So if one person in the family had to go inpatient, there was something catastrophic or a heart attack, and the bill from RRH was $100,000, that one person wouldn't go through the full $16,500. They would be stopped at $82.50. And again, just to kind of take a step back, is the copays. So like a doctor might charge $100 for a visit. That's what they're billing. That's what their charge is. So on the Platinum 6, individuals are paying $30. Excellus is paying $70. The doctor gets their $100 and they're happy. On the Gold 17, same thing. You're paying $40. Excellus pays $60 to get their $100. So the two plans on the right, these are true high deductible health plans. So what that means is everything is subject to the deductible. So even prescription drugs, even doctor visits, specialists, employees or individuals are paying that full contracted amount until they meet their deductible of either $2,000 for a single or $4,000 for a family on the Gold 6 plan. So that same scenario I said earlier, if the doc is charging $100, if you're on the Gold 6, you're paying that $100 to the doctor, the full amount. And again, that's a contracted kind of preferred rate with Excellus, rather than the doctor could really want to charge $180, but Excellus kind of says you can only charge $100 because you participate with Excellus. So back to the Gold 6, after the $2,000 and $4,000 is met, it goes to coinsurance, similar to like the Gold 17 for invasive services. So you're going to be responsible, or the employee is responsible for 20% of any additional doctor's visit or medical service that comes their way. Excellus is paying 80% until an individual meets their out-of-pocket maximum, which is $4,000 for a single or $8,000 for a family. Prescriptions are a little bit different on this plan. Once you hit your deductible, instead of coinsurance, prescriptions flip to copays. So you can see a couple rows up. If you meet your $2,000 or $4,000 deductible, then you have a $5, $45, or $90 drug tier. And again, that all continues until you meet your out-of-pocket maximum, or $4,000 or $8,000, with an individual enrolled in a family plan capped at $8,000. You'll also see on the Gold 6 in the prescription drug row, preventive drugs are not subject to the deductible. So this means that if there's about a list of about 900 drugs on Excellus's preventive drug list, if your drug is on this list and it's blood pressure, cholesterol, contraceptives, some diabetics, some asthma medicine, they go right to the copays. So even if it's January 2nd and you haven't even touched your deductible yet or anything, your drug is considered a preventive drug, you go right to the copays. So that's a really big benefit of high deductible health plans in the community pool. And then the Gold 21, same thing. This is a similar high deductible, just like the Gold 6. The difference is that there is not co-insurance after you meet your deductible. It flips to copays. So again, on this plan, you're paying the full contracted rate until you meet that $2,000 or $4,000. Then you can see doctor's visits, that first line there, switches to $25 copay. Specialist is a $40 copay. Even hospitalization turns to a copay, and prescriptions do as well. This also has the preventive drug rider. So once you hit your deductible, and then you go into the copay stage, if you're having a lot of services or having an unlucky year, all of those copays and your deductible, you're working towards your out-of-pocket maximum, which is $5,500 or $11,000 for a family. Any questions on how the plans work? I know it's kind of a lot to take in for sure. No? Okay. So what I just did some modeling here, and ultimately we can share these spreadsheets with you And you might find that you love one of these, options, or one needs to be tweaked here or there. But just wanted to show you different, modeling scenarios and really what we kind of see out there in the marketplace. So what I did here was I did at the top is your current estimated cost, again, just as a level set. And then down below, what I did was 90% to the gold 17. So that's that hybrid plan. So again, that's going to be the half copay, half high deductible plan. And then I simply followed those dollars. So the other column in the left, the 1058, 2116, etc. I put those to the Platinum 6 to show kind of, the monthly difference in cost for employees. So you can see, employees, this would be true what we would call a buy-up plan. So we typically do see, and municipalities definitely included, kind of choosing a horse as your main kind of, your main plan. So Town of Rush would say, we are basing everything off the gold 17 going forward, whether that's a resolution or an update in, procedure or handbook, and then you can buy up to the Platinum 6. So you can just see kind of where that shake things out. And of course, the dynamic thing here is where enrollment lands, right? So I just showed apples to apples, if the people in the Platinum 2, still wanted that Platinum Field copay plan. I kept those 3 individuals in there. And then, kind of assumed the Platinum 6 folks that already have the lower cost plan slightly might go to the gold 17. But of course, it's going to shake out at open enrollment, depending on, and communication and where you ultimately land on employee cost. But in this scenario, this takes your 21% renewal, down to 7% of overall premiums. Of course, the employees are going to be picking up more of the cost because they are buying up to the Platinum 6, and you're only doing 90% to the gold 17. Any questions on this one? Okay. So in this plan, it's a similar buy-up, but what I did is I went 95% to the gold 17 for the Town of Rush. And that's just because I wanted the gold 17 to be a little bit more attractive to employees. The difference between paying $141 a month and $58 a month could really make somebody contemplate if they're in the right plan or if they really need that copay plan. We have statistics that a majority of employees, 85% are typically healthy. And then there's 15% in a population that might be on an expensive drug or, have to go to a specialist once a month. And, offering still that copay plan to them might, make them feel comfortable and they're willing to buy up to it. And I just thought making the gold 17 to 95%, which you're still, saving money because the gold 17 is going to be less expensive, of course, than the Platinum 2 and the Platinum 6. And the more people that buy down, the Town of Rush would save more money in this situation because the Platinum 6, you can see at 90% is more expensive than even the gold 17 at 95% for all parties, just because of the way the plans are structured. So in this scenario, this brings still just because it's 90% to that Platinum 6 instead of making them truly buy up and you're only doing 75% like the last scenario. Your change is about $30,000 or 10%. Overall premiums to Excelis are 7%. And then actually the employees win in this scenario just because of that lower cost gold 17 monthly cost. You can see, $58 for a single compared to they're either paying $116 or $117 today. Same thing like for a family going down to $167 compared to $330 where they are at currently. So this would actually save money even compared to current and definitely to the renewal. And then I would say this is a model that we typically see the most, kind of a trio of plans. Of course, healthcare is not one size fits all. Nobody has a crystal ball. So letting employees kind of pick and choose, dependent on how their family utilizes services. And just why this looks a little bit different, just to fit it on the page, I hid some of the rows up above in the current, where there was no enrollment, just so we could fit everything on the page. So in this plan, I essentially chose, again, the horse as the gold 17. So the 90% to the gold 17. So you're still offering a plan at 90%. And then I followed those numbers up to the platinum 6. So I took the 1,058, 2116, etc., up to the platinum 6. Let them buy up to that higher plan if they want it and they need it. They've got a lot of prescription drugs. They find that it's necessary. That's great. Keep it. Let them buy up to it and pay more for it. And then what I did is I also did 90% to the gold 21. So instead of carrying your costs down, so the 1058, you can see the gold 21 is 1016, 2116 for the employee plus spouse is down to 2033. And I did this on purpose because I think that it would be a good option to think about is offering potentially an HRA or an HSA with the gold 21 high deductible health plan. I work on the Finger Lakes Municipal Health Insurance Trust program. It has 18 municipalities in it. Of course, they're all over 100 eligible employees, because New York State has that rule. But we've seen over time the migration down into lower cost plans really happens when there's kind of like a carrot, like an HRA or an HSA. It just makes it a little bit less scary. And I know, through conversations and, working with Rush in the past, that you already do have an HRA to some of these plans, and I believe it's $500. So that's why I would simply suggest, pledging an HRA. The nice thing about HRAs too is it's just that it is a pledge. So if somebody doesn't use it, then it stays in your bank account. And what's nice is if somebody really does need it, if they're ill or whatnot, they can benefit from that. So the way I set this up is on the next page. If somebody chose the gold 17 or chose the gold 21 instead of the gold 17, the town of Rush is saving on a single contract about $500. Or even the platinum 6. So you can see, you're paying 1,058 for the single and platinum 6 and gold 17. Whereas if an employee chooses the gold 21, you're paying 1,016. So again, that's about $495 in savings. The actual premium amounts that the employees are paying aren't going to be that drastically different. But again, a carrot of an HRA or an HSA might help them get down into that plan. Town of Rush savings from a family contract choosing the gold 21 instead of the top two plans would save the town about $1,400 per contract per year. So the thought behind that, and looking at some benchmarks on where other municipalities are with their HRA or HSA spend, I suggested potentially offering $500 for a single, again, in an HRA or HSA, or $1,000. That would be funding half of the deductible, because the deductible is $2,000 for a single. And then family, you're saving $1,400 for individuals going into that gold 21. So you could offer them $1,000 in an HRA pledge. And then you're still kind of pocketing that $413 per contract per year. Or you could, give most of the savings away and do maybe like a $1,500 if you wanted to, just to help them feel comfortable with the deductible concept. Because these deductible plans are definitely not going anywhere. And these both, the gold 6 that I talked about and the gold 21, they're what we call very entry level high deductibles. We see 8,000, or we see 8,500 for a single, 17,000 for a family. Again, these are 2,000 and 4,000. So there definitely is room to grow and save more money and go down. But really key is education, and giving them options and kind of getting them used to high deductible health plans. And one thing I'll notice too is the Gold 21 and the Gold 6. I had showed you 3 plans. I didn't model the Gold 6. You know, essentially the Gold 6 is about 1% less expensive than the Gold 21. Just for, you know, if you wanted to think about that or, you know, take that into consideration. We typically see the Gold 21 as more popular because it goes to co-pays after the deductible. So again, the Gold 21, you pay your 2,000 or 4,000, and then you really have a predictable, you know what, when you go to the doctor, it's going to be $25, or you go to urgent care and it's going to be $40. On the Gold 6, the co-insurance plan, it's hard to kind of predict, okay, what's 20% of my, you know, dermatologist going to charge? So it's still kind of like that unknown. So just for, you know, purposes of this presentation, I showed the Gold 21. And then I think that was really pretty much all the scenarios. So was there any questions? Did any of them catch your eye? I know I talked, you know, a little bit with Janice about how you're at 90% right now, but if there's kind of an appetite or a way to, you know, adjust. I know there's no collective bargaining, but you still obviously want to be very careful. Anything that kind of catches your eye or want more information on?
A lot of information.
Can we get a copy of all of this? It's
Of course.
Everyone, I think it's really late this afternoon.
okay.
Like Dan said, it's a lot of information. I think I'd like to sit down and kind of look over it a little bit and develop questions from there. I don't know. What do you think, Luther?
I wish he was here.
No.
Speaker says, I don't know, it's just a lot to digest quick.
Well, I mean, we have time to look over it. But I think we need to get it in front of us and really look at it.
Yeah.
Study it and come up with the best way forward.
Mhm.
Is
agree.
there a situation that you're leaning towards? Like, would you want to, you know, because of course you could just say we're choosing the Gold 17 and we're doing 90% to the Gold 17. I just think there's an element of still allowing, you know, employees to buy up to that platinum plan, if they truly want it. And that's, you know, kind of in your wheelhouse to kind of make those adjustments in your procedures. And then you still have, you know, a plan at 90%. So it's really, you know, up to you on how comfortable you are, how comfortable, you know, the employees are with change. But is there anyone like right off the bat where you would think like doesn't make sense, or one that you particularly you like the 3 plan idea, or you're just really not even there yet? You got to kind of digest it.
But just for an example, how much is the buy up if you were going to go from the Gold 17 to the Platinum 6?
So in this right here, so
Okay.
yep, so the Platinum 6, so the monthly rate is that 1410, so that's going to Excellus.
Mhm.
And then the Gold 17 for employees is 1175. So I put 90% to the Gold 17, which makes your cost, you know, a 1058, 2,116, etc. Then I followed those numbers up to the Platinum 6. So if you have a new hire, a new employee at the town, you know exactly how much you're going to spend per employee per year. It's the employees that are buying up to the Platinum 6. So Gold 17, an employee can pay $117 a month for that hybrid plan. If I want the Platinum 6 that has copays for every single service and prescription, I'm going to be paying about $350 a month. So employees are buying up in this situation. So again, I mean, it's gonna definitely be, like an appetite for education, because right now, both on the Platinum 2 and Platinum 6, employees single up above, you can see they're paying about 116 or 117. So now that essentially becomes the Gold 17 plan. So they're paying the same amount for that hybrid plan. It's not a true copay, but with the deductible only applying to outpatient procedures and inpatient hospitalization, it still functions like a copay plan, and their day-to-day doc visits, preventive services are covered in full on all plans. But it's really just kind of moving the goalposts down to that Gold 17 plan.
You mentioned, I mean, these are all Excelis. Is that the only choices we have?
Yeah, so unfortunately, so Excelis received on average about a 21% increase across all of their community rated plans. MVPs was a little bit less, but their starting point was higher. They're already about 25 to 30 points higher, unfortunately. And that's an element of Excelis actually subsidizes the Rochester rates with their Syracuse and kind of Empire State rates. So Excelis undoubtedly loses money in this area, just to gain that market share. That's the only way they're really competitive. MVP is not competitive. Aetna is not competitive. Cigna or United Healthcare, unfortunately. And that just kind of adds to the problem. There's not a lot of competition in the market.
Okay, I was just curious.
And then so this plan, again, to focus on this plan, this is 95% to the Gold 17, but instead of following those numbers up, I still am making employees pay more for that Platinum 6. You know, the difference again between a family paying $400 for that Platinum 6 plan compared to $160. I mean, that's substantial savings annually out of their paycheck. In some cases, it could even cover, you know, the deductible or some of the deductible, if they were to have an outpatient procedure on the Gold 17. So it really just depends too. And a lot of these plans have to do with cash flow scenarios, like how comfortable is somebody that has to maybe pay for a prescription out of pocket? Do they really look forward to just paying the copays and they rather just budget out of their paycheck a higher amount? Or are they okay if they go to the dermatologist and have to pay $300 because that's the true cost of the dermatologist? So it's kind of, it gives more employees something to think about. When the rates are too similar, you know, like what you have going on with the Platinum 2 and Platinum 6. I mean, there's obviously 3 people in the Platinum 2, but even 8 people just for the minimal savings, you know, are even buying down to that Platinum 6, which has, you know, a little bit higher copays. And you might be surprised. Some, you know, if you get even new employees that might be younger or, you know, young families that are generally healthy, they're going to say, you know, give me a plan that's $58 a month instead of $116. And then, you know, they can also switch it open enrollment. So say something unforeseen happens, or they had a rough year, or they expect something next year, they can switch to the Platinum 6 again and pay more for it at open enrollment if they wanted to. And then this plan, and also something I forgot to mention, I just assumed, you know, one person would, you know, maybe bite and buy down on that Gold 21. So I still have you at 11 contracts completely. I kept 3 in the Platinum 6, 7 in the Gold 17 hybrid, just assuming one person might buy down to the Gold 21 and want that HRA pledge money or HSA if that's the way you went. So, and again, the key here is you're paying the same for the Platinum 6 and the Gold 17. Employees would pay more to go into the Platinum 6, a smidge less to go into the Gold 21, but Town of Rush would save money they would again save about $500 for every single contract annually that chose the Gold 21. And they would save about $1,400 annually for a family contract that chose to go into the Gold 21. And then you could potentially put it into an HRA to help them through that deductible stage. Because again, on the Gold 21, you have that $2,000, $4,000 deductible. So if they had, kind of $500 of pledged money, if something unforeseen was to happen, or a family, you help them, kind of get into their deductible, that would be, beneficial as well. And the difference between a health savings account, which are really, really popular these days, and an HRA, is an HSA is its true money into an employee's bank account. So like the difference for the town of Rush would be that the HRA is a pledge. If they don't use it, they lose it, right? And that money never leaves your bank account. But an HSA it's actually a little bit more equitable, because every employee, kind of whether they're sick or not, they have to get prescriptions, they have to go to the doctors, everybody gets those HSA funds, but those are real dollars coming out of your pocket. It's tax-free. HSAs allow employees to save money pre-tax. They could take it with them if they were to leave the town of Rush. So there's a lot of advantages, but I know since you kind of already have the HRA, it would be kind of an easy switch to adjust the plan design to increase it. I believe you're at $500 right now, but if you increased that to, $1,000 for people that chose the Gold 21, and even $1,500 for family contracts, that would definitely be enticing for employees to move down into the lower cost plans. Is there any other scenario that you could think of that you wanted to see? Like, hey, let's put, everybody in the Gold 17, or what would it look like if we just offered the Gold 21, or is nothing really jumping out yet like that?
Looking over it before, I kind of like the hybrid Gold 17, but
Yeah.
Um, just looking at the numbers to see that it's equitable to the employees. That it's something they can deal with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if I could let's do some quick math. So if right now I'm paying 116, and we know that would go up slightly for them, 141 with the increase. So they'd be paying 141 next year for the Platinum 6. And then, and if the Gold 17 in this scenario, they would be paying $58. So their cost would be going down from even today. So 116 minus 58. So it's going down about $58 in this scenario for the Gold 17. Of course, it's a different plan, structured a little bit differently, times 12. So they're saving about $700 annually, just by having that ID card in their wallet. I mean, remember on the Platinum 6, you still have copays. I mean, you still have to pay, $50 or $70 for, prescription drugs every time you need a drug, $40 for specialists, etc. So that's like simply alone just having the ID card in your hand. And then families, today it looks like they're paying about $330 for the Platinum 6, going down to a 167 in this scenario, which of course is fluid. So a family contract would save about $2,000 annually. So if they're a little bit nervous about their deductible, they're already, halfway there if they were to, again, have a hospitalization or a procedure on the Gold 17 hybrid. And what it might be helpful for me to do when I send it over to you is next to these, I can just put underneath like platinum copay, gold 17 is copay. The only high deductible is the 21. But because it's sometimes it's easy for employees to forget about that pre-tax payroll deduction unless they're looking at their pay stubs all the time, on what's coming out to, pay the town so you guys can pay Excelis. But that's real dollars. If you could put more in their paycheck, kind of make them, it just feels like you're more in control of your money, of where it's going. And you can even almost be a smarter consumer. Like, again, on the gold 17, if you had to have an outpatient procedure, there's different costs if you go inpatient at Strong for, an ACL surgery, or if you go to Westfall Surgery Center. Like, so it kind of adds like a consumerism component in it as well, and allows them to, save money out of their paycheck. Where consumerism really comes into play is on high deductible health plans. So on high deductible health plans, it's funny because for the longest time, no one knew what the cost of healthcare was. And it's one of the most expensive things that we buy on a monthly, weekly, annual basis. Every time you go to buy a new car or a laptop, you're always looking at the price. You're saying this, this price, can I get it here? And everybody just, for the longest time, just does what they're told by their doctors. But when you're on a high deductible health plan, and especially if you have like a health savings account, which that's like real dollars and it's a real deductible that you have to spend, you might say, you know what, I think I'm going to go get my MRI at Organide Imaging. I don't think I'm just going to go down, the hall at RH because my doctor told me to, because just the overhead costs at the hospital, make it 35% more expensive right off the bat. So people in these high deductible health plans are becoming kind of more advocates for themselves, more consumers. And that's just really what we need in like the healthcare landscape in general. And for the longest time, people didn't know what the cost of anything was, because you don't care what the true cost of the MRI is, what Excelis is paying, because you knew that you had, a $20 copay. But when you're on the high deductible health plan, you kind of can price shop a little bit. But I do think the gold 17 would probably be a good stepping stone. Certainly to go from the rich copay plans, all the way down to a high deductible. Potentially the gold 17 might make the most sense. Give them a little taste of the deductible if they do have like an outpatient or a procedure, but still have that, comfort of those copays, albeit they're a little bit higher than the Platinum 6. But again, the way we structure your contributions, hopefully they're saving that, if not more, in their paycheck annually. And what we typically love to do is, education at open enrollment. We go through scenarios where we'll do like a healthy person that didn't have a lot of services, how he used the Platinum 6, then how the Gold 17 worked for them. Then we do a 2-person scenario where there's like a pregnancy, for example. So like a maternity that was like $10,000 hospital bill. And then we do like a family catastrophic where there was like, again, a heart attack with a major inpatient $100,000 bill, and kind of how all the plans would, like a weather vane of how they would all, wash out with the financials. I can also send these spreadsheets to you. I mean, I know it's hard on the eyes, but if you wanted me to, I could definitely, because, if you change one number, it'll change the percentage, and you could say, hey, maybe we do 85% to, the gold 21 in the scenario. You can just see how kind of the numbers change. And also, if you wanted to look this over, come back to me and say, Molly, here's our marching orders. We want gold 17. We want, our increase to be 10. We want employees increase to be 10, make it work. Certainly more than happy to do that for you too.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Need to look things over.
All right, well, thank you for your time. You know where to find me. I know Janice knows where to find me. You have this presentation. What I can do is I can update it for, so you know which one's the hybrid and which one's the high deductibles and the financials, so you're clear. And then please just let me know and keep me in the loop. And you have plenty of time to make a decision. Plenty of time. I mean, employees can tell you December 15th and we can enroll them. So take your time, look it over. It's important, and let me know if you have any questions, okay? All
Thank you.
Thank you.
right, thank you. Bye.
It's a lot to look at, and I'm,
Yes.
you know.
I agree.
That's what everybody's doing these days, looking at health insurance plans. I'm doing it for myself because my plan is gone. You know, we might want to consider some base level that the town will kick in to make it equitable for everybody. Just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
But make the other plans available, that if they want that, they just kick in more. Buy up, in other words, if they, it's just a thought. Like if the town will pay a certain amount, here's what the benefit is. Anything above that, it's, you know, they pay.
Yeah, I need to look over.
I'm sorry?
I need to look over the. to
Yes,
see how-
obviously, I don't have any of those numbers.
Yeah,
It
how
was a
it
lot
plays,
to take
how it
in.
plays out for the individual or the family.
Well, trying to be fair.
Yeah.
To the employees and to the town and to the taxpayers. Because even if we, you know, drop down to a low level, people have more money in their paycheck to pay
Yes.
the higher deductible.
Yes,
So they, depending on how healthy someone is, they may not be hurt at all.
could come out ahead.
I'm sorry?
Could come out ahead.
Yes. But with that in mind, just to look at some of those numbers and to think about that, what is the number?
That's,
Yeah.
that's the hard part right there.
It is hard, because we could look at it and say, well, that'd be great for me.
Yeah, but everybody's got different situations,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
I
I don't
have
know.
a family member
I'd
that,
like to look.
that I
through
gotta
it.
cover and
Right,
this isn't gonna work.
I'd like to look through it a little
Yeah.
closer and.
Yeah.
See myself, you know, there's a good presentation. I took down some notes to go back and.
Yeah, when
sure.
we get the, you know, the handouts, then we could study them, I think.
All right. Moving on. We need a resolution to adopt the tentative budget. So that we can set a public
Preliminary,
hearing
correct? Make the tentative the preliminary.
to adopt the tentative as the preliminary.
Yes.
Yes.
My question is, why would we do that? We don't have numbers in the budget. It's gonna change.
It's gonna change after the public hearing also, but we need to set the public hearing. So the process to move forward, or we're gonna not get it done. And this is just setting the preliminary budget. Then we can, we're gonna move the numbers.
Because the changes we talked about the other night, not all of them are captured in this newest version that I got today.
Everything from the workshop out at the, pavilion or something.
We need to add the two salaries we talked about.
Well, it goes to a public hearing anyway, right? So
Yeah,
we
we
need
need to
to
vote this
comment,
up.
so we
Public
may
hearing.
modify stuff.
We're
After
definitely,
the public hearing.
I think there's gonna be other modifications after it's made.
Yes.
Preliminary isn't the final budget.
Right,
The
so.
public hearing, the public's gonna speak on it. We'll take that into consideration and then we can always adjust
Right,
after that.
So,
This isn't making it a final budget by any means.
correct.
No, this is a starting point, really.
Because the changes that you did incorporate actually increased the money coming out of the fund balance.
That's what we talked about at the workshop.
Well, no,
Some change.
not entirely. There's more because I took my notes. So there's more things that are not incorporated that we talked about.
Well, we'll incorporate them when we talk about it again.
At the workshop, Gene, I recall at the workshop, the only two changes that were made was two $10,000 deductions in revenue. At the workshop.
Yeah,
And I say, we can bring it up at the next hearing and
I mean, we also talked about the legal fees because that's bumped up. And we talked about reducing that for anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000.
Right, but I think
Uh,
some of those discussion, Genes, I don't know if we could, those were made, we discussed that in executive session, but those decisions can't be made in executive session. They have to be done in a public meeting.
Okay,
So that's some of the stuff we discussed and thought, well, maybe we could do this, but that's not a decision that can be made in executive session. That's something that's a decision that has to be made out in public.
street lighting. And then, of course, the health insurance.
Yes.
Right.
Gonna be a
but
big
hadn't-
one.
We
Yeah.
haven't made any decision. We just got information.
I
that it's
know,
about-
that I know,
Right,
that I
but,
know.
but
I'm
in
just-
the street lighting, I don't think we got anything.
Well, you're gonna look into it to see if
Yes.
that's something we could reduce. I just rather not tax people.
I tried to get a hold of Tracy and she didn't get back to me. I think it was supposed to be like 50% savings. I'll still double check.
Anything that we could not base our tax rate on would
Mhm.
be a good thing.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
reduce the
yes,
amount that
absolutely.
we're actually gonna set a tax rate. It doesn't make sense if we're not gonna, you know, what I mean, I don't want people to
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah, absolutely. None of us want people to pay.
So,
But by moving this to the preliminary at this point, we're not, obviously, you know, as well, as that you've done it for a few years doing this, it's not set in stone and we're still taking public input after that, so.
yeah, I'm just uncomfortable, honestly. Without incorporating some of these other changes and getting some better numbers.
We still have time. And if you have specific things you want me to look into, send it to me.
Well, the legal, the health insurance is the big one in my book.
Yeah, that's the huge one. Got information from Janice today about the legal fees. I've requested information about the street lighting. I haven't got it back yet.
And then there was some other building costs that we were thinking we could postpone the parking lot stuff that we were looking at, some of the repairs
Yes.
that we discussed.
Yep.
You know, knocking another 60,000 off out of this.
I say bring it all up at when we have the meeting, Gene. We
At
have
the public hearing.
get the notes and we can bring it all up.
I think the building, I think some of that probably could, I don't think that was executive session discussion, that was.
I think we could decide.
Just
Yeah.
casual discussions,
Yes,
but
and I think all that was, all of that was good stuff that we brought up and we'll work it in and see how it works out when we move towards our final budget here.
and with the
Remember-
health insurance, I'd like you to think about, we're all going to think about it. Of course, we'll apply it to what we would think would be fair, and then we may come up with 4 or 5 different.
Yeah.
Rational. But I'd like to think about what would be something the town can afford, and that would be fair from our employees and, fair, across the board. Right now, I don't think it's fair the way we're doing it. Some people getting better benefits than others. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'd rather see
Same level of benefits, just spread over more people.
Not currently.
The people getting the biggest assistance from the town are family plans.
But in terms of the benefit to a particular, I know the cost is different, family versus a single.
Yeah.
But if the town was saying, we'll contribute, X amount, pick a plan, we'll pick some X amount that the town, this is how I'd like to think about it, will contribute. Anybody that wants to do anything beyond that, it's on them,
Yeah, that's what
even,
we're- what we're considering.
and that's what I'd like you to think about.
Yeah.
Because it could be outside that 90% coverage. It could be, a higher kick in by the employee if they want a
Mhm.
more elaborate plan. It's
Yeah.
gonna be something north of 10%.
Yeah.
I would think. I don't know what that number is, but they threw out a lot of variables in
There's
this
a lot.
presentation.
A lot of variables.
Yeah, more than we could absorb, I believe,
Yeah.
just running through it in 10 minutes.
Looking at a screen.
Yeah, I tried to
Yeah,
pull it up here, but it was still,
Yeah.
and, she was going through things and she would stop and talk, but it was like,
Yeah.
it's a lot to look at.
there's a lot to look at.
A lot of terms, a lot of acronyms.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But we need a resolution to move the tentative to the preliminary budget.
What does that lock us into, Kevin?
Doesn't lock you in anything, it's simply.
I don't want my hands tied if I
No,
went along with
that-
this.
That budget is the one that goes to the public, so that at the public hearing, they have something to look at, so they know what the discussion is based on. But you're still free to adopt the final budget, well, that's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
of Going through the process.
Well, I'm all for sharing the numbers, and having that being posted and available for people to take a look at.
I mean, the point of it is to, at least so that the public, when they're coming to the board meeting and to speak at the public hearing, they've seen what the preliminary budget is. And they can ask questions or give comments on it, and that's still your opportunity to look at it, vet it, and to the areas that need to be tweaked or revised, you still have time to tweak and revise them. It's fine. You're not committed, your arms aren't tied to anything, you're not committed to anything until it goes final. So until that time, certainly make modifications as the board sees fit.
Residents
This is
been
really
asking-
to basically to kind of keep the timeline going for what the state requires and particularly the county, which is.
Well, what are the dates? Again, refresh us.
By the end of, well,
Not
the
if they still
county
been-
wants them a little bit in advance of what the statute says.
Okay, so tell me the dates.
Hearing of preliminary budget must be held the Thursday following the election day, which is Thursday, November 6th.
By that.
Yes. And the hearing may be adjourned, but not beyond November 15th.
So we have to have our preliminary budget adopted by the end of this month. And then we have to schedule, at least we need 5 days to schedule a public hearing. At least 5 days. And again, then from that point in time, once the public hearing is conducted, you still have time to take a look at the preliminary and make whatever modifications and changes you want to that budget before it goes up to be, before you vote on for it to be final. So you're not committing yourselves to anything. This is still, I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be great if the preliminary was virtually perfect and then, get a commentary feedback and then you can, approve it as final right after the public hearing, but that's not typically what happens. There's usually some
Changes.
Yeah, some modifications to it, certainly. So you're not committing yourself to anything.
I am so hesitant, honestly, because there's so much that needs to change here, in my opinion, because this budget is not sustainable, in my opinion. And I think we need to, this town, and I would just ask everybody to please look at the, not beyond this year, because using up $1 million of the town's reserves, $1 million, let that sink in, of the town's reserve in 1 year, does not give us anything for a future unplanned for expenditure like the roof again. We're gonna be in serious problem as a town, and we're doing this all to keep it in the 2% cap instead of raising rates, so it's either we raise rates or we shave off,
Well,
cut expenses.
we have the opportunity to do that.
I know,
After we adopt this, we have the opportunity to do that.
and I just have to say it, I gotta talk.
Yes, you do.
Because I need to work through it in my head. Because I'm just not happy with this, with these numbers, with the resources that we're using. And we got, we add people, we add costs, we increase payroll, we increase insurance, and I'm glad we're going through this exercise with insurance. Because this is a serious issue and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. We should have done this years ago, but here we are. And let's get serious and do this, because we cannot. You may think it looks good, hey, we kept 2%, cap. But the cost is just unbelievable to this town. And we either have to seriously cut costs or raise taxes. It's really, that's your choice. But to think about that, do the right thing.
Think about it every day. It'd help if we raise the tax rates. We're moving forward. We need to move the preliminary budget forward. Do I have a motion?
I so move to adopt the tentative budget as the 2026 preliminary budget. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilwoman Morelli,
I'm thinking. Aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kais,
Aye.
Supervisor Wilbur,
Aye. And we need a resolution to set the public hearing on preliminary budget.
I so move to schedule a public hearing for the 2026 preliminary budget at 7:15 PM on October 22nd, 2025 at the Rush Town Hall offices, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Can we move that out? We need time to think about how this budget may change.
No.
Why not?
how are we gonna meet meet the deadlines of submitting it?
We have to be approved by the end of this. We have until. the first one. Trying to figure out that, I'm sorry, it's looking at the next board.
Only
Yeah,
recommendation
so
is your
27th.
timeline on the second half after you get the public comments
Yeah.
will be short. You would almost want this to be shorter, let the public say their comments, and then it gives you more time to make the change.
To make more adjustments.
That's my
Do
opinion.
it. I agree.
I agree.
So when are we gonna,
So you can, and I'm just throwing out for a hypothetical. Some of the questions and comments and changes that you want to propose, we can still have that discussion at the public hearing. So at the next board meeting, I think, from my perspective, you need to have those discussions sooner than later, because we do have to get to a point where we can adopt the final. So I'd rather understand, I think the board should understand what comments, concerns are not only the public, but to the extent that you guys have questions or comments on on the preliminary budget, you need to discuss those sooner than later. That's my only, and again, we don't have to necessarily open and close that public hearing. Keep the public hearing open if you so chose to do so, to give yourself more time, but I think that the time, I think that your time is better spent getting towards the final budget than the preliminary. That's certainly my take, but that's totally your call. But I don't know that having the public hearing necessarily does anything other than just start the discussion, get some of the public feedback, but it doesn't slow you guys down. It doesn't prohibit you guys from having internal discussions and talking about concerns that you have or suggestions you may have on the healthcare or whatever. I mean, we're gonna have to have these discussions, so, and to me, it's to start those discussions, sooner the better, because we gotta
Yes.
get to a point where it could be, finally be adopted, so to the extent that there's things that we need to go back to any of the consultants or anybody for more feedback,
Exactly.
I think it just gives you a little bit more time to do so.
That's a starting point.
So how are we gonna do that?
Well, we'd have the public hearing and then after that, we'll take all the feedback, any questions we have, and then we can move forward.
Now, we can-
Or even before that, we can be asking questions, but we'll have more information from the public earlier if we do it now than to push it back 2 weeks after that. It's,
And then, if you guys are in a jam and you're having issues, there's nothing to say you couldn't call another special meeting to discuss the budget. You certainly, the supervisor can call down as short as 2 days notice if need be. So I think starting getting the public hearing going and then continuing the process is just gonna buy you more time, give you a longer runway to work through it. As opposed to then feeling rushed to get the final budget down. That's just.
Okay. Okay,
So we have a motion, was it seconded?
Luther seconded.
Thank you for your answer.
aye.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilman Kies,
Aye.
Supervisor Williver.
Aye. Having conducted all the business on the agenda, the motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.